Could players win less after web shops are regularized? The F&M and DNA slam a numbers pause. We go behind the scenes of Shakespeare in Paradise. We've got those stories and a whole lot more coming up tonight. I'm Vonnie Toot, and NV12 Weekend starts now. Topping news tonight, as government moves to regulate the web shop industry, many players have questioned whether numbers houses will reduce their payouts. Well, FML Group of Companies CEO Craig Flowers said he still hasn't considered whether players will take home less winnings once government begins taxing web shops. Kyle Joaquin has a story.
Now that the revised gaming bill has sailed through Parliament, several web shop operators say they will now have to do some restructuring. A certain aspect of that restructuring is to determine whether or not they will have to decrease their payouts. While FML Group of Companies CEO Craig Flowers says at this particular moment he can't say whether or not he will have to do so. Flowers told NB12 that he still hasn't decided whether players' winnings will decrease once web shops are regularized. Web shop operators who are invited to apply for licenses will be required to pay a non-refundable $100,000 deposit for a gaming house operator license, in addition to $30,000 for each gaming house premises license they apply for. Not to mention, web shop operators whose businesses have a turnover of more than $5 billion will be required to pay a penalty of $350,000 in lieu of taxes that could not be collected when they were operating outside the act. Now, those with a turnover exceeding $5 billion will have to pay $750,000. This has raised questions about whether web shops will pay out less to winners.
One can go through all sorts of calculations and come up with all sorts of scenarios as it relates to what will the industry do. That again, we're speaking about the future. I'm not prepared. I have no information. I have absolutely nothing that I can render you at this junction as it relates to what the rollout to the customers are going to be.
FML currently pays out $900 to gamers who catch a 3-ball straight for $1. Flowers says what's most interesting at this point is that government nor web shop owners know what will happen in a regularized environment.
I can go from my former experiences in other countries where I would have had the experience of dealing with implementing the same games in other countries, but Bahamas is uniquely different. Bahamians are different. Bahamians has a different approach to a lot of things. So for myself, you know, I'm not too optimistic about any growth in the industry as it relates to regulations, because regulations require us to follow rules.
Flowers says because we live in a culture where Bahamians want their own way, enforcing regulations will be a tough task for the government when it comes to web shop gaming.
A huge task, but not insurmountable, not that they can't get it done, but it's going to be one that is going to demand a lot of responsibility, because it has a lot of implications down the road, whether it be through banking, whether it be through transparency, all of the things that we are going to be required to do, like my company is required to do now in foreign countries. Those are the things that are concerning to me.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Meantime, Free National Movement Chairman Darren Cash blasted Flowers' recent comments to NB12, urging people not to demonize the government for moving to regulate the web shop industry. Cash urged the FML boss to shut up, suggesting he's only pouring salt on the wounds of Bahamians who voted no in the 2012 gambling referendum. Deputy leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Chris Mortimer, also took issue with Flowers' comments.
I don't think Mr. Flowers should demonize the church for taking a stance on what they believe and where they believe the country should go. So, you know, I appreciate that he has a perspective and just how people expect him to respect the opinions that he has. I think Mr. Flowers should also respect the position that the church has, because they do have a significant role in the development of our country.
Mortimer also slammed Prime Minister Perry Christie and Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis for criticizing the Christian Council's stance on web shop regulation.
The church has a role to play. Just as all of the other persons who, depending on whatever side that they're on, they have a role to play as well. But I respect what the church is doing, and I encourage them to stand up for what they believe in. In the same way, I expect Mr. Flowers and anybody else to stand up for what they believe in. And at the end of the day, this is all about a contest of ideas and what's going to be in the best interest of our country.
And as government prepares to issue requests for proposal to a limited number of web shop operators, web shop consultant and Vote Yes coordinator Philip Galanis is advising some operators to merge to avoid being shut down.
I also would not be surprised if you see some mergers taking place among the numbers houses, because if there are only a limited number and some are not allowed to proceed or to continue in business, then naturally it would make sense for them to explore the possibility of merging with the existing licensees.
Tourism Minister Obi Wilshcombe said recently government is considering awarding 8 operator licenses. Galanis says he believes there will be a level playing field, noting that while the larger numbers houses are considered obvious choices, no operator is a shoo-in for a license. However, he says the smaller web shop operators may likely choose to merge.
The smaller houses may recognize that their chances of getting a license may be a little more difficult, or the probability is greater for the larger ones, and therefore the smaller ones, rather than be completely marginalized, might seek to engage in some sort of merger and some sort of union of partnership.
And in other news, police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of an 8-year-old boy, whom they believe was electrocuted at a small resort on Friday. According to reports, the child was at the resort on Orange Hill with his family. Police say he was electrocuted when he touched an air conditioning unit after swimming in a pool. The boy was rushed to hospital where he died.